Of your authority? Is that how you justify condescension? Discrimination? I read the report, Commander. Your words didn't enforce security. They enforced your bias. People like you. That's what you said, isn't it? Ellison's throat tightens, his carefully constructed composure beginning to crack. Sir, The CNO raises a hand, silencing him with a gesture that carries the weight of command. The person you belittled is not just anyone, Commander. They are a trusted advisor, someone whose counsel has shaped decisions far above your rank. They are also my closest confidant. The words hit like a thunderclap, leaving Ellison momentarily speechless. He searches for a defense, something to salvage his crumbling authority. I didn't know, sir. If I had... The CNO's voice cuts through his feeble attempt. If you had known, you would have treated them with respect? Is that what you're saying? Respect, Commander, is not conditional on rank, title, or status. It is the foundation of leadership. And today, you've shown none of it. The room grows colder. Power blinds. Respect builds. But what happens when arrogance replaces leadership? This is the story of a commander who thought himself untouchable until one moment of prejudice unraveled everything. One mistake, one misjudgment, and the consequences will shock you. Stay to the end because this isn't just a story. It's a lesson we all need. Subscribe now, and let's face the truth together. On the edge of the vast ocean lies Port Haven, a fortress of discipline and power where every whistle, every command carries the weight of duty. Ships glisten under the unrelenting sun, jets scream through the skies, and the hum of relentless activity fills the air. Here, among the orchestrated chaos, one man strides with unshakable confidence, a leader by title, feared by presence. Commander James Ellison. To most, he is the embodiment of authority. His metals gleam like beacons, his voice cuts like a blade, and his steps demand attention. But beneath this polished exterior lies something darker, an arrogance too deeply rooted to conceal, a prejudice thinly veiled by protocol. Even now, as he surveys his crew, his gaze sharp and critical, the cracks in his facade begin to show. A young sailor, struggling with a load too heavy for one pair of hands, catches his eye. Without hesitation, Ellison's voice pierces the din. You call that effort? Maybe you do better in a different uniform. His words, dripping with disdain, hang in the air like a stain no one dares to wipe clean. The sailor says nothing, his jaw tight, his humiliation masked but not hidden. Around him, others avert their gaze, complicit in their silence, trapped by a hierarchy that Ellison exploits with precision. In this world, respect is currency, and Ellison hoards it like a miser, unwilling to give where he feels it is undeserved. But power breeds blindness, and arrogance sows seeds of downfall. The whispers among the crew grow louder, not in volume but in intensity, as tension weaves itself through the ranks like an unseen tide. Even the wind seems to carry a warning, a foreboding of what lies ahead. Ellison doesn't notice. He never notices. He believes himself untouchable, his authority unchallenged. But storms do not bow to arrogance, and fate does not heed rank. The storm is coming, not of wind or waves, but of consequence. And when it strikes, it will strip Ellison of his armor, exposing the man beneath. This is no ordinary story. It is a reflection of pride unchecked, of power misuse, and the reckoning that always follows. Brace yourself for the storm. And if you dare to face the truth within it, subscribe now, because this is where the Real story begins. It begins in the shadow of a steel giant, the flagship of the fleet looming over the docks like a sentinel. Commander James Ellison marches with purpose, his every step a statement of authority. The crew parts before him, heads bowed, movements brisk, avoiding his gaze as though his presence alone could command a storm. And then as he rounds a corner, he sees it. A figure standing where no one should be, near the restricted zone by the ship's command bay. A civilian, or so it seems, dressed in plain clothes, hands clasped casually behind their back, their posture unervingly calm. Ellison's voice cuts through the air like a whip. "You there? This area is off limits. State your business." The figure doesn't flinch, doesn't scramble like the countless others who have wilted under his scrutiny. Instead, they turn slowly, their expression unreadable, their gaze meeting his with unsettling steadiness. "I'm waiting for someone," they reply, their tone calm but firm. "I mean no harm." Ellison narrows his eyes, his irritation rising. "Do you think this is some public park? You don't just wander into restricted zones waiting for someone. This isn't a place for idleness, and it certainly isn't a place for people like you." His words are sharp, deliberate, with just enough venom to leave no doubt about the prejudice beneath them. The figure raises an eyebrow, their composure unbroken. "People like me?" they repeat, their tone neutral but laced with a hint of challenge. "Perhaps you should reconsider your choice of words, Commander." The use of his rank feels like a challenge, a crack in the deference Ellison demands. He steps closer, his voice low and biting. "You don't get to tell me how to speak. You're trespassing, and if you don't leave now, I'll make sure you regret it. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The figure holds their ground, their calm like stone against the rising tide of Ellison's temper. "And perhaps you have no idea who you're dealing with," they say softly, their words deliberate, their gaze piercing. "You might want to rethink your actions before this goes further than you intended." Ellison freezes for a fraction of a second, thrown off balance by the certainty in their tone. But arrogance wins over caution. "Don't try to intimidate me," he snaps. "You're out of your depth." The figure says nothing, their silence more powerful than any retort. The tension between them crackles like an unseen current, an invisible line crossed with every word Ellison utters. The storm he so casually unleashes will return to him with a fury he cannot yet comprehend. This is the moment that sets everything into motion, the moment where pride blinds him and arrogance deafens him to the warning in their voice. The reckoning begins here, and when the truth comes to light, it will shatter everything he believes about power, authority, and himself. This is not a story of commands obeyed or disobedience punished. It is a story of the storm we create when we fail to see beyond ourselves. Watch closely, for this is only the beginning. Subscribe now, and prepare to witness the fall. The clash ends as quickly as it began, with Commander Ellison waving the figure off as though dismissing a nuisance unworthy of his time. He turns his back on them, muttering under his breath about respect and discipline. The figure, however, does not leave in haste. Instead, they move with quiet precision, retrieving a sleek phone from their pocket, their expression unreadable. A call is made, brief and deliberate, their words too faint to overhear, but carrying a weight that lingers in the air long after they've walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the naval base. Ellison, unaware and unconcerned, resumes his routine. He strolls through the base, barking orders, inspecting crew movements, ensuring his presence is felt in every corner. He wears his authority like armor, oblivious to the ripples of unease he's left behind. Time moves forward, the day unfolding as expected, the hum of naval activity undisturbed, or so it seems. Then it happens. A summons, sudden and without explanation, delivered by a junior officer who looks as though he's seen a ghost. "Sir, you're requested at command immediately." It's urgent. The words are unsettling, but Ellison masks his curiosity with irritation. "What's this about?" he demands, but the junior officer only shakes his head. "I wasn't told, sir. Just that it's from the top." Ellison straightens his uniform, his steps brisk as he makes his way to the command center. He enters the room with confidence, expecting to face a standard briefing or a procedural inquiry. Instead, he stops short. Seated at the head of the table, flanked by silent officers whose gazes are as sharp as knives, is a figure that commands the air itself, the Chief of Naval Operations. Calm, composed, and utterly unyielding, The CNO radiates an authority that dwarfs even Ellison's formidable ego. "Commander Ellison," the CNO says, their voice steady but with an edge that cuts through the room like tempered steel. "Please take a seat." The words are polite, but the tone is an order, leaving no room for negotiation. Ellison hesitates for the briefest moment before complying, his mind racing, searching for the reason behind this meeting. The CNO's gaze is unrelenting, their posture relaxed but exuding control. "Tell me, Commander, how do you assess your leadership today? Did you conduct yourself with the integrity and respect expected of someone in your position?" The question hangs in the air, heavy with implication. Ellison blinks, caught off guard. "I always uphold the standards of this institution, sir," he replies, his tone defensive but measured. The CNO doesn't react immediately. Instead, they lean forward slightly, their hands steepled on the table. "Interesting, because I've received a report today, one that paints a very different picture. A report involving an encounter you had this morning with a certain individual." Ellison's heart skips, but his expression remains stoic. "I don't recall anything unusual," he says, the words carefully chosen. The CNO's eyes narrow, their gaze piercing through his carefully constructed veneer. "Perhaps you should think harder, Commander, because the individual you dismissed so cavalierly, the one you deemed insignificant, is far from it, and they have brought their concerns directly to my attention." The room falls silent, the weight of the revelation crashing down like a tidal wave. Ellison's mind reels as the truth begins to dawn, a truth that will upend everything he thought he knew about authority, power, and the consequences of his actions. This is a moment where arrogance meets accountability, where the pedestal he's built for himself begins to crumble under the weight of his own hubris. And as the CNO's words echo in his mind, one thing becomes abundantly clear. This is only the beginning of his reckoning. What happens next will define not just his career, but his very identity. The storm is here, and it's far from over. Subscribe now and witness the truth unfold. Commander Ellison strides into the room, his steps measured, his confidence intact. He glances around, his gaze flicking to the senior officers seated in silence, their faces unreadable. At the head of the table, the Chief of Naval Operations waits, their calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the storm brewing beneath. Ellison, still oblivious to the gravity of the summons, offers a crisp salute. The CNO speaks, their voice steady, deliberate, and ice-cold. "Commander, do you know why you're here?" Ellison shakes his head, his tone measured but laced with irritation. "No, sir. I assumed it was a matter of operational importance." The CNO leans forward, their eyes locking onto Ellison's with an intensity that makes the room feel smaller. "Oh, it's important. It's about an encounter you had this morning, an encounter with someone you believed to be insignificant." Ellison stiffens slightly, his mind racing. He tries to recall the morning, the faces, the moments, but he finds nothing worthy of such scrutiny. "I don't understand, sir," he says cautiously. The CNO's voice sharpens. "Let me help you." A civilian near the restricted zone. Someone waiting for a colleague. Someone who posed no threat. Someone you humiliated, Commander. Someone you dismissed with words that reveal far more about your character than you might want to admit. Ellison's heart begins to race, but his face remains stoic. "If this is about protocol, sir, I was enforcing security measures. My actions were within the scope of my authority. Just imagine, who's going to buy that?" The CNO doesn't blink. "Within the scope of your authority? Is that how you justify condescension? Discrimination? I've read the report, Commander. Your words didn't enforce security. They enforce your bias. People like you. That's what you said, isn't it?" Ellison's throat tightens, his carefully constructed composure beginning to crack. "Sir, The CNO raises a hand, silencing him with a gesture that carries the weight of command. "The person you belittled is not just anyone, Commander. They are a trusted advisor, someone whose counsel has shaped decisions far above your rank. They are also my closest confidant. The words hit like a thunderclap, leaving Ellison momentarily speechless. He searches for a defense, something to salvage his crumbling authority. I didn't know, sir. If I had... The CNO's voice cuts through his feeble attempt. If you had known, you would have treated them with respect? Is that what you're saying? Respect, Commander, is not conditional on rank, title, or status. It is a foundation of leadership. And today, you've shown none of it. The room grows colder, the weight of the CNO's words pressing down on Ellison. The balance of power has shifted irrevocably. Where once he commanded, now he stands defenseless, exposed, his arrogance laid bare. The CNO rises slowly, their presence towering. This is not just about one incident. This is about a pattern. A failure to lead, a failure to embody the principles this institution stands for. There will be consequences, Commander. Severe ones. Ellison can only nod, the reality of his position crashing down around him. For the first time in his career, he is not in control. This is the reckoning. The moment when unchecked power meets unyielding accountability. The fall of a man who believed himself untouchable, undone by his own hubris. And it is far from over. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching a story, you're witnessing a truth that challenges power, authority, and the very nature of leadership. Subscribe now, because what comes next will shake you to your core. The room is silent as the Chief of Naval Operations rises, their presence commanding, their voice resonating with unshakable authority. Leadership, they begin, is not measured by the power you hold over others, but by the respect you earn through your actions. Commander Ellison, you have failed this measure. Today, your actions have revealed not just arrogance, but a prejudice that has no place in these ranks. This institution stands on the foundation of unity, respect, and accountability. And when those values are compromised, we all suffer. Ellison stands frozen, stripped of his confidence, his authority unraveling with every word. The CNO's gaze sweeps the room, addressing not just Ellison but every officer present. Prejudice is not a flaw to be ignored. It is a disease that erodes the trust we build as a team, as a family. Let today serve as a warning. No rank, no title, no achievement places anyone above accountability. To protect what we stand for, this behavior cannot and will not be tolerated. They turn back to Ellison, their tone final. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your command. Your conduct will be reviewed, and your future in this institution hangs by a thread you have frayed yourself. The weight of those words crushes Ellison, but there is no protest, no defense left to give. He nods slowly, the realization of his downfall dawning fully. The figure Ellison dismissed earlier is seen now, walking through the base with quiet confidence. But they are no mere civilian. Their nameplate gleams. An admiral, a decorated strategist, a cornerstone of naval intelligence. Their record unmatched. Their respect earned. The very image of everything Ellison failed to see. The CNO's voice returns, reflective, powerful. This story is not just about one man's failure. It's about the dangers of arrogance, the cost of prejudice, and the power of respect. In leadership, every action reverberates. Every decision shapes lives. And when respect is absent, the foundation crumbles. This is more than a story. It's a lesson, a mirror reflecting the truths we too often ignore. Subscribe now, because understanding these truths is the first step toward change. And change begins with you. This story is not just a tale of one man's downfall. It is a reflection of the world we live in, a mirror held up to the unchecked biases that poison respect and unity. In leadership, in life, in every corner of society, the choices we make define the trust we earn or destroy. And Ellison's failure is a warning to us all. Prejudice, no matter how subtle, erodes the foundation of progress and divides where we should stand united. But this is not just a fictional tale. Studies show that bias in leadership impacts morale, productivity, and cohesion, with nearly 70% of employees reporting discriminatory treatment from superiors. In the military, where unity is not just a value but a necessity, the stakes are even higher. So now, the question turns to you. Have you ever been in Ellison's position, blinded by assumption, or perhaps on the receiving end of someone else's bias? Share your thoughts in the comments. Reflect on what leadership, respect, and accountability mean to you. This is not the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of change. Subscribe now, because stories like this reveal the truths we must confront to build a better future.